I'll tell you.
Okay.
Get ready.
I'm ready.
Get set.
Welcome. My name is Jean Churchill, and I choreographed and directed the piece you're about to see. The text is by Ian Fraser, the music by Kyle Gann, and the performer is Marguerite San Millan. Thank you.
Recently, I signed a lease with a major oil company to allow it to begin cranial fracking. Cranial fracking. Deep drilling to tap the vast resources of natural gas found in the human head. These reserves are not distributed uniformly in all individuals. In my case, however, a gas-rich formation known as the Jersey deposit runs from behind my eyebrows to beneath my bald spot and then angles downward to the point of my chin. According to the prospecting crews, this cranial structure holds enough CH4, methane, to power all of New England for 20 to 50 years. When this bonanza was discovered, oil company representatives came to me hoping to lock in permanent and exclusive extraction rights for a fee that was truly eye-popping. As the details were explained, I wished I had paid more attention during the brief cranial section of my earth science class in high school. Apparently, back in the Silurian period, some 438 million years ago, my head was completely covered by a shallow inland sea. Time passed, the sea receded, and swampy, carboniferous growth sprang up. In the resultant ooze, distinct parietal ridges appeared, trapping some of the carbon. Ages passed. I was officially born. There was that difficult year of kindergarten, and very slowly, under extreme pressure, valuable gas was formed. I have suspected its existence since about the 4th grade, while I was hammering a nail into my nostril, just to see what would happen, as kids will do, when suddenly there was a tremendous explosion that sent nail and hammer flying and injured a neighbor in their yard across the street. After that, I knew I was different. Although I wasn't sure I wanted to be. But now, like thousands of similar people, I count myself somewhat lucky to possess this resource. Getting at it has always been the hard part. With some folks, a gas seep rises clear to the surface of the head. Then, all that extraction workers have to do is part the hair, where there is hair, and screw a well valve and cap through the skull directly into the brain. With me, and others like me, however, it's not so easy. First, entry sites must be established just at the front of each ear, where the overburden is shallow and the head narrowest. Then, multi-directional, diamond-shaped drills bore through the obstructing bone until they reach the remote inner levels, where the richest concentration of gas lies hidden. Often, this is a hit or miss process, a moment's inattention on the part of the drilling technician who is sitting at a console in their apartment and also checking their email can cause mistakes. The bit may emerge unexpectedly, scattering skull fragments and plunge onward through one's hat or glasses, as has happened to me on more than one occasion. I am sorry to say. I am sorry to say. Quite honestly, the whole process hurts like bloody hell. After the drill has reached the gas deposits, contained in thousands of tiny pockets, no more than a few molecules across, the surrounding bone must be microscopically shattered to free them. This is done by backing out the drill, taping on a small firecracker, lighting it, shoving it back into the wellbore, and shouting, "Fire in the hole!" After a muffled sound, smoke comes out, sometimes accompanied by a bit of teeth and brain lining, depending on how accurately the charge has been shaped. I don't have to tell you that this is the moment when we must keep our country's energy future in mind in order to withstand the horrible agony. Also, unavoidably, some of the gas escapes before the well can be capped and hooked into the distribution network. Cranial gas is itself a very potent agent of climate change. It's a very potent agent of climate change, and my own, as it turns out, is considerably worse than most. A stream of surfactant at very high PSI is then shot back into the wellbore to flush it. And the fluid is sealed up permanently in skull chambers, sometimes causing temporary dizziness and nausea. This fluid containment system ensures that nothing will ever come out. However, in the unlikely, but not uncommon event that it does migrate into the mouth, it tastes like pineapple. Reports have found that a flammable facial exudate possibly also results from this process. However, no connection has been found. No connection has been found until the past few years. None of the technologies I've been describing were available. If you had a head full of top-grade crude, you simply went to the squasher and 1, 2. You were done. Back then, nobody bothered about utilizing other cranial hydrocarbons because there was no need. Today, the equipment is so sophisticated that it can find a single molecule of gas can find a single molecule of gas in a head of almost solid bone. like Senator Inhofe's. However, I am not blind to the controversies. That is, when the pumping mechanism is working properly. And I'm not blind for other reasons. I know the people who make negative comments, which are right, but they are not the ones who know about this personally and are getting paid. Yes! Everything now tastes like pineapple. And there's the pain. And I have these Christmas tree valve arrays that make it impossible to fly on airplanes. My pores combust spontaneously if I don't keep the moistened towels on. But I recommend the procedure without reservation. The only thing I would say is, if you're thinking of putting your signature on a cranial gas lease agreement, it's best to wait until the kids are grown and out of the house. If you have a spouse or a domestic partner, separate and obtain a divorce if necessary. You will want to spend all your time in a corrugated metal building with an oil-soaked earthen floor. Find a good oil patch lawyer. Have them begin proceedings against you as a preventative measure. Direct wire transfer of lease monies to the Caymans is the only way to go. And here's a secret. Guy wires attached from your neck to a building's rafters. They provide head support that feels wonderful. You will thank me down the road.
And now I'm honored to introduce Elga Antonsen. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read from my upcoming book, Singing Out of Tune. Free the Rosenbergs. June 16th, 1953. Jumping off the school bus, I planted my feet on a slight rise on the highway above our house in Staten Island. I turned towards the bus, wondering why my sister Karen wasn't getting off. At last I saw her hop onto the ground. My flower fell under the seat, Karen said. Finally got it. She cupped the flower made of tissue paper in her hands, her lips in a smile that made her freckles dance. My 11-year-old brother Eric, 2 years older than me, brushed past. Gotta feed my pigeons. He took long strides down the seat, and rounding the rock on the corner of Morrow Street, where we lived, Karen, racing ahead of me, stopped short. Look, the FBI man, he's there again. Across the street from our house, a ramrod figure in a hat stood in front of the fire hydrant where the corner of our neighbor's manicured hedge met the woods with tangled vines. I sat down on a boulder we used as a chair and also as home base in our ball games. Here's what we do. We walk right by and make believe he's not there. Don't even look his way when we pass him. Karen nodded, her eyebrows pulled together. Okay. My legs tingled like ginger ale as I stood up. Time slowed. This was the first time we had to walk past the FBI man. Before this, we'd watched from the windows. My feet felt like lead. I reached out my hand to my sister, but she snapped her hand to the side, walking rigid and controlled, mouth pinched. At 5, she had already learned to remain in her own private realm. We marched ahead on the street, a plop of macadam with tar that we loved to pop in the heat of summer. Now we had to pass that man and make believe we didn't see him. I don't know why I felt we had to keep him invisible. When he came before, my father had crossed the street a few times and spoken to him, probably to go on about the ills of capitalism. Then he'd come in and tell us how it doesn't hurt to plant a question in someone's mind. He'd take a puff from his roll me my own cigarette and said, in a debate,
You must be capable of arguing both sides of a dispute. Follow Robert's Rules of Order. You see, both parties can be heard. Here we were, walking together past that man, brave, two revolutionaries. What could he do? Take away my parents, like happened to the Rosenberg kids? Would that be so bad? After all, maybe I would be taken in by some normal family, like in Ozzie and Harriet on the radio, where people listen to each other. They listen to each other around the dinner table. Walking past the mailbox, my breath caught as I glimpsed the man's granite face and long coat. I was glad for my billowing skirt shielding Karen from seeing him. We had almost an acre of property, most of it behind our house leading to a swamp with a clear view of the oil tanks and factories spouting smoke edging the Kill Van Kull in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Winding creeks had been shaped by workers to protect Staten Island if there was a fire. My father, shirtless in bib overalls, was unloading salvaged wood from his truck, lining it against the hedge separating our driveway from our neighbors. He waved as we climbed up the steps to the front porch. "Hi, Zeke," I said. He wouldn't let us call him Dad. He waved and kept working. I kicked a roller skate behind an old washing machine. Our mom was up and around once more. Her back had given out after she'd picked up a pencil from the floor. She stood over a mimeograph machine, a monster she used to print out leaflets for as long as I could remember. It stood on a table against the wall in our bedroom, a converted dining room. I slept in the top bunk, my sister below, and my brother had some old sea captain's mahogany bed. We had moved back from New Jersey once again after Mom lost her job teaching third grade. The FBI got to her principal, told him she was a communist. When we came back, our tenants moved upstairs with their 4 children, soon to be 5. My parents took over the living room in the front, and we managed to share the kitchen and bathroom. As we came through the door, our mother's face wreathed into a smile, bumping up a black smudge of ink on her cheek. Karen rushed towards her. "I present this to you." She twirled her hand and offered the paper flower. Erdine took it and held it up in admiration. "What a pretty rose." "He's out there, that man." Karen pressed her lips together, closing her eyes. "They're just trying to scare us. Try not to pay any mind," Mom said. "Soon this will be over." Her eyes gazed at the ceiling. "The lawyer said we might get a stay of execution." She stood up over the machine and rubbed a stylus over the template on the roller and smoothed out a crimp in the paper. Turning the handle, she said, "Now let's see how this turned out." A leaflet popped through the chute with the headliner, "Free the Rosenbergs." Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were communists who were accused of passing atomic secrets to the Soviet Union. Now they were scheduled to die in the electric chair. Their sons were our ages. We had been to countless protest demonstrations in the 3 years since their parents were arrested. My eyes burned into a drawing of a picture of their sons going to the White House to give a letter to the president, President Eisenhower, asking him to save their parents' lives. He was the only one who could stop their execution. He wouldn't see them. They had to give it to a security guard. How must they feel? Their pictures had been plastered all over the newspapers. I felt like I knew those boys, especially after I saw a picture of Michael in the backseat of a car explaining something to his brother Robert, like I did for my sister Karen. "Do you think they'll die?" I asked Mom, shifting from foot to foot. I yearned to hear my mother say they would be freed. If anything happened to the Rosenbergs, how close were my communist parents to being arrested? When Mom frowned, a crease formed on her forehead. She passed her hand through her dark curls. "I think they have a chance." Before my parents' comrades went into hiding, they'd knock on our door to have a private conversation with Zeke, who told us, no need to know their names. My father walked up to my mother and caught some leaflets about to fall off the table. "Looking good, Erdine. Since the agent is honoring us with his presence, should we offer him some coffee?" Thank you. That's that one. Mom and Mary. Staten Island, August 1950. Mom sat on a blanket with me. I was 5.5. Mary lay nearby on a lounge chair wearing a blue swimsuit she'd made herself. We were at Faber Pool, a park with a pool and a playground on Richmond Terrace with a view of the waterway separating us from New Jersey. Eric and Mary's kids, Tommy and Sarah, were running around the pool and jumping into the water. Her oldest, Carla, named after Karl Marx, was sitting on the edge watching them. I leaned against Mom, who put her arms around me. Karen, teething, was finally taking a nap. Arms flailed out on the blanket. We had all been in the water. The others were still swimming. I was savoring this special time with me leaning against my mom. "Oh, I feel so fat today," Mary said, looking like a mound in a fold-up lounge chair. She curled her lip. "When I was a child, I was rail thin and could barely walk." "What happened that you couldn't walk?" Mom said. "My bones were soft. I had rickets." "Rickets?" "Yeah." Mary rubbed her knee. "We lived in Pennsylvania. My father had an accident in the coal mine." She stopped short, her brow furrowed before she could go on. "He couldn't work for a long time. We were so poor, we didn't have enough food." Her lips pressed together, strangling her voice. "Mom used to give us each a piece of bread with molasses. That helped." "I can't imagine what that could have been like," Mom said, peering owl-like at Mary through her thick glasses. "I'm sorry." Mom went on. "My pops took the bottom and top off a wooden box and put it over my head, so I was in the center. I held onto the sides and used it as a crutch. I got around the house pretty good." Well, that was innovative, Mom said. Yeah, it was, said Mary, leaning her chin on the tips of her fingers. But then one day I was clumping around in my box. Let's see, it was about 1921. I was about 5. A wonderful lady came from the health department. She had red hair. I found out later she came because of the Shepherd-Towner Act, the first federal law to help poor women and children like me. She said, maybe my red hair, but I'm angry seeing that you can't walk. I cried, thinking she was mad at me. Mary rolled her eyes. She said, oh no, sweetie, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad that there wasn't an automatic safety net for little people like you. I felt so much love coming from her. The very next day, she started milk deliveries for us. And we got eggs, cheese, fruits. Spreading her arms out wide, she said, all kinds of food. Someone came to the house and helped me do exercises. Before long, I was walking, all on my own. Only trouble is, I started eating and eating. I couldn't stop. Look at me now, really fat. Diets don't help. Mom tightened her arms around me. I wonder if that is what happened to my grandfather. He must have been close to 400 pounds. He said that when he was a boy, he was so skinny, nobody thought he would live. Once he was asked how long he'd lived in Syracuse. He said, long enough that when I walk down the street, people don't rush to their windows to see the fat man anymore. Just then, we saw Tommy and Eric sauntering towards us, with Sarah running behind them to catch up. They won't swim with me. Sarah, hair stuck up like milkweed silk, glistening in the light, threw her wet self on our blanket. She wailed with a cry that hurt my ears. Tell them they have to. I thought about my father. He wouldn't put up with such whining. He stopped me from doing that when I was 4. Threw a glass of water right in my face. I knew how to keep my mouth shut. We wanted to go in the deep part, Tommy said, skidding onto the blanket. Why can't Carla jump in with her? Carla was coming slowly towards us, a tall, slim, almost teenager with milky skin and white blonde hair. I heard that, she said. Sitting down next to her siblings, I could see their creamy skin and pointed chins. They all resembled one another. All of them had hair so light I couldn't see their eyebrows. I set my hair last night, she said. Don't want it messed. Mary nodded her head in understanding. I said, well, I don't care about my hair. Want to go in with me, Sarah? We swam. When we got back, Eric was talking about the bike he was fixing. Tommy, bursting to say something, kept trying to interrupt. Guess what, he said. Next week I'm getting a 10-speed bike. Really? Eric and I said together. Yeah, it's a reward from the fire department. I was playing with a kid in a vacant lot and he fell into a well. I tried to reach him with a stick. I gave up and ran to a house. They called the police. A fire truck came. They threw down a ladder and got him out. Now they're giving me a bike. I'm going to find somebody to rescue, my brother said. Now this last one is called Dog Tags. In February 1952, the New York City Department of Education issued dog tags to 2.5 million students. PS 22, Staten Island. A tall man tapped on the door. "Now, class," Miss Gash, my 4th grade teacher, said. Her long fingernails plopped the chalk into the grooved shelf in front of the blackboard. "We have someone from the civil defense team who is going to show us a movie." Miss Gash clapped her hands together and said, "Class, give a welcome to Mr. Rodney." We all parroted, "Welcome, Mr. Rodney." The man strode to the front of the class, a hat clamped down to his eyebrows. "Hello, boys and girls," he said, fingering his badge with CD in red lettering. "This means civil defense. We are regular citizens who have stepped forward to protect you and me." He poked his finger at us and then his chest. "I have a movie to show you, and then a great surprise." He set up a projector on an empty desk he pulled into the aisle, while the teacher pulled down a white screen in front of the blackboard. A cartoon turtle came on the screen with a loud bang. The turtle closed its shell over his face. A voiceover chirped, "This is Bert. He's so clever. He closes his shell whenever there's danger." The voice continued, "We have the possibility of danger because an atomic bomb may drop. Just like the turtle, you need to be prepared." There were pictures of children reacting to a siren by ducking under their desks and covering up their necks, just like the turtle. Miss Gash stood next to the man with the projector. "Let's practice, class," my teacher said. "Everyone climb under your desk." In a great scramble and scraping of chairs, we all clambered under the wooden desks, lining up in rows. "Now, class, cover your eyes and foreheads with your hands." My nose pressed close to the oak floor. I could see a flattened piece of gum embedded in the groove of the floorboards. Vincent and I shared a silent laugh when he dropped a stick of gum and covered it with his hand as Miss Gash swept by. We practiced going up and down under our desks. "Very good, class," the man said. "Now we have a special gift for each one of you." He placed a briefcase on the teacher's desk. "Here are our identification tags, so that if there is a blast, this will help your parents identify your body. Some of you have your religion stamped on your tags. You will be able to get the last rites if you're a Catholic. Others might have your pastor summoned." Miss Gash gave the tags out in alphabetical order. I saw my name pressed into a metal tag with my father's first name under it and our address. I kept touching the embossed letters with my name, liking the feel of it in my hands. I felt important. Some kids were looking at their tags and comparing them with others. I rode home on the bus, proudly fingering my tag. The driver let us off the bus. Eric skidded round the rock at the corner of our street, far ahead of me. By the time I got through the hallway into the kitchen, Eric was waving his tag in the air. Zeke put down the inner tube he was scraping to put a patch on and sat down in front of the potbelly stove. As we warmed our hands over it, he said, "Let me see that." I picked mine up and held it out to him. They're called dog tags. Everyone in the whole school got one. It has my name on it and yours. He turned it over and over in his fingers. What's the purpose of this? If there's an atomic attack, our bodies could be identified. So they claim this will help in case of an attack? What's the purpose of this? His voice was rising. I felt myself shrinking. Yeah, and people who are religious can have last rites. This is nuts. My stomach tightened. My father fingered the tag. This is the way they propagandize. Capitalists want to make us afraid, to make us accept the bomb. They're trying to make us all think you could be identifiable. The bomb would destroy everything in its path. You'd be dust, if even that. The first week, he let me keep it. The teacher called out our names, and we had to raise our tag and say, "Here." We were in the middle of a math lesson the first time the siren came. It was loud. We all looked up, listening to the far-off wail that got louder and louder. I had been dreading being called to the blackboard and was relieved by the distraction. I crouched under my desk and tightened my skirt around my legs. No one spoke, not even the students who usually found any excuse to chatter. After what I thought was about 10 minutes, my arm cramped. I got a whiff of the pine-scented floor. A siren blew, and the drill was over. It was already lunchtime. The teacher forgot about the math lesson for the whole day. I went home and told my father what had happened. A frown creased his forehead. He said, "The tag might survive, but that would be small comfort for us. You are not participating in this farce. Give me the tag." But they check us to make sure we have it. All right, I'll write a note saying I am not allowing you to wear this tag. He called Eric down from upstairs and took his tag too. I walked in the next day, my neck bare. Eric shuffled ahead. When class started, Miss Gash said, "Now I will check your dog tags." I knew I would be called after the boy in front of me and could feel my body tensing. "Elga, show your tag." "I don't have it." "Why not?" I dragged out my father's note. Walking up to her desk, ignoring the smirks and whispers exchanged among the kids, I handed the folded paper to the teacher. Her eyes skimmed the page. "What is the meaning of this?" she said, eyebrows slanted in a scowl. My father said those tags make us think if a bomb hit, there'd be something left of us. Stay in, I want to talk to you. I remained at my desk as the other kids filed off to lunch. Miss Gash stood behind her desk and called me to her. I stood, feeling my body stiffen. I want you to be wearing that dog tag tomorrow. I nodded, my stomach rumbling and tight with dread as she peered down at me, her perfect manicure the only thing I could focus on. No, I can't let you wear it, my father said. I knew there was no way he was going to give in. Miss Gash said as she turned and went through the drill of checking everyone's dog tag. I came to hate that even worse than math. Yeah.